cells and how they work. Module 3. Click on the module, and as usually it's got the module overview, to know, to see, to do, and then optional materials this time. Let's click right on in. We're going to talk about cells, the smallest unit of life. There are two major groups of cells, prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells, and their approach to life is quite different, actually. I pulled from the videos a couple of snippets, and right now I'm focusing on pulse and fuel. I'll look to see if other videos are better suited. As a matter of fact, for cells, maybe some of the neural cells may be better suited. But at any rate, I pulled two videos that referenced cells, eukaryotic cells, cells in our body, and then two videos that also reference cells in our body, but prokaryotic cells in our body, not pathogenic, disease-causing organisms in our body, but organisms that are necessary in our body that actually help us survive. Little more about cells and why you should care. And then you've got the chapters are chapter 4 and chapter 5. Chapter 4 and chapter 5 are going to talk about cell sizes. They're going to talk about hydrophobic, hydrophilic kind of things, talk about compartmentalization, diffusion, osmosis. So this section here tells you the kinds of things that you can expect to be looking at in the chapter and that you should know afterwards. Module activities walkthrough video, that's the video I'm recording right now. And then the tasks are going to be, as usually, read the chapters, sample questions, go through the sample questions, make sure that you, after you read the chapters, try to see if you can answer the sample question, check your answers in Mastering Biology. Then go to the demonstration section. There are two beautiful videos there, and I'll show you. It's totally worth it. And then activities and assignments. There's an diffusion osmosis experiment. There is a diffusion osmosis quiz. And then a discussion board where I really just want to see how you're doing. I may tweak the possible answers to this discussion board. I may add additional questions if we run out of things to talk about. But in the background and lecture info, chapter 4 and 5, roles of cells, function of cells, helpful materials can be found here. So you click on here again and you get to the SharePoint side. Anytime you don't get to anything that works, let me know, but make sure you tell me I came from here, because I have lots of links in this course, so you gotta have to help me if I'm trying to fix them. Watch the video lecture for chapter 4 and chapter 5, and then ebook access, read chapter 4 and chapter 5. And I'll leave it up to you whether you want to listen to the lecture first or read through first. There are usually things I skip, so it may be worthwhile looking at the lecture first and then reading through the materials that you found harder or in the book. So chapter 4 and chapter 5, here's chapter 4 and here's chapter 5, and you just click on it, and this is what you do. Moving on to demonstrations. This video, it's just beautiful. Um, this is a video. It's a what's the word I'm looking for? An animation. But an animation based on what the molecules actually structurally look like. So we know from X-ray crystallography and other things, we know what these molecules look like. And we know from experiments how these molecules interact. So this video actually shows you how these molecules interact, and it is absolutely beautiful. Um, if you're struggling with osmosis, here's a little video that helps you with osmosis, um, including real life connections. Um, read this. This is for one of the assignments. So read this and then complete the assignment. Bioresources, the Google site, Bio112 site. Um, there are lots of different resources on the Bio112 site. If you're struggling with figuring out what osmosis is, um, Crash Course Videos is very helpful. Bozeman Science is very helpful. Khan Academy is helpful. If you're struggling with the textbook, these free online textbooks are available. And while we fix Pearson, the material is going to be, the knowledge is going to be the same, right? The hard science part, the presentation is going to be a little different, but the facts are going to be the same. Um, cells and osmosis. Let's see what we got for cells and osmosis. There's the video here. There's a second video about the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Um, yeah, so there's not that much here this time around, but this is a site to look at every once in a while. Um, yeah, all right. And then the assignments are relatively harmless this week. Again, linking you back to the correct site, just making sure that it actually does. Here, the chapter 4 mastering assignments, so click on it and you get to them. Chapter 5 mastering assignments. Then the diffusion osmosis board. So there, I want you to read the chapter first. But then once you read the chapter, I want you to see osmosis in action. And I want you to try. Now remember that we're not just talking osmosis. Osmosis happens in real life rarely. Osmosis is only the movement of water. So if you read in the internet that nutrients are transported via osmosis, that is simply wrong. Just because it's written in the internet doesn't mean that it's correct. And that is actually a statement that I have found in the internet quite a few times. So osmosis is a rare occurrence. Diffusion happens all the time and everywhere. Osmosis happens only a couple of places. But this is an example of osmosis in potatoes. You can have it happen. Osmosis using an egg. Um, you have to remove the shell to see this. And the shell removal is not osmosis, but the rest of the experiment is. And this is impressive, but it's going to take a couple of days to do. Um, diffusion of water through jello, that's a diffusion, that's not osmosis. So make sure you use these terms correctly. I will take points off for incorrect use of terms diffusion and osmosis. And then for the osmosis in action, view the assessment. So the story is the story that you read in the demonstration section. It's the same story but there are questions associated with that story, and trying to test your understanding of the whole diffusion and osmosis bit. And then once you've done that, you can get to optional materials. Optional materials gets you to a video about Anthony van Leeuwenhoek, and he is one of my favorites. Um, in the lecture of chapter 4, you may have gotten an inkling for that. He was a carpet salesman or producer, and he wanted a way to look at his carpets with more detail, and so he invented a microscope. Um, well, he created a microscope, and it was literally the best microscope in the world at the time. And then he was actually the person that saw live one-celled unicellular animals for the first time. He didn't believe it at first. Neither did anybody else, and it took a little bit to convince people that he had seen live animals. Especially the church didn't quite want to believe it, but they eventually came to visit and saw it for themselves. So, but that's it for this time around. So, ask if you have questions, and yeah, I hope you have a little bit of fun.